Don't you have a,
This thing put here in 1989 to commemorate the new municipality of Sycamoose. Revelstoke gave it to us.
focus?
You want somebody that's focused, my friend, you should have got someone else.
Here it is. Okay. Good stuff. All right, we'll call to order the Select Finance Committee meeting today. I need someone to move to adopt the agenda. Thank you. Seconded by Pam. All in favor? The agenda has been adopted. And now, we're going to adopt the minutes from the last Select Finance Committee meeting. Could I have somebody move to adopt the minutes from the last meeting? All in favor? All right. Now we will move on to our new business. We have a presentation from Olivia from the Wild Safe BC. Take it away, Olivia. Thanks for coming.
Everyone hear this? Okay, perfect. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Olivia and I work with Wild Safe BC and I am the Wild Safe BC Columbia Shuswap coordinator. Today I am providing an update on how the 2023 season went for Wild Safe BC. And then we're going to talk a little bit about funding and some opportunities for Sycamoose specifically. So for those of you that are not familiar, Wild Safe BC is a program of the BC Conservation Foundation, which is a not-for-profit dedicated to conservation of fish and wildlife habitat resources. We started as Fairware in 1998, and now we are including other species of wildlife, and we've later changed our name to Wild Safe BC. So this is the program coverage area for the Wild Safe BC Columbia Shuswap program currently. So in 2020, Area C had a lot of conflicts with grizzly bears or with black bears, and Area E had a lot of conflicts with grizzly bears. So the program was developed to include Area C and Area E. With the split of Area G or Area C into Area G and C, now the program only covers Area G. It also covers Area E as well, and City of Salmon. This is the first year that they've been on board as well. So some highlights from this year. So far this year, I've been very busy with a bunch of community programs. Bin tagging was probably the thing that I was most busy with. So total, I tagged 818 bins, and this is where I go out the night before collection day and make sure that people are not placing their garbage out to the curb, which is a very big bear attractant. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about bin tagging in a little bit. I was also really busy with display booth at community events. This included the Sycamoose Farmers Market, the Sorrento's Farmers Market, Santa Monica Farmers Market, and the Swansea Point Barbecue Fireball event. In total, I engaged with 570 people at these events. I was also busy with door-to-door education, where I was doing this proactively either to prevent human wildlife conflict in the fall time when bears are getting ready to go to hibernation, or when it was done upon the request of a CEO when there's frequent sightings of wildlife in the area. So overall, I was able to reach 79 residents through door-to-door education. I also man the Wild Safe BC Columbia Shuswap Facebook page, where I made on here it says 43 posts, but now it's actually up to 47 posts. I increased followers from 162 to 199, and I was able to reach around 7,000 people through my Facebook page. For media, it also says 6, but now it's 7 news articles have been released, including Santa Monica Observer, Eagle Valley News, the Swansea Point Community Newsletter, and also the South Food. I also posted signage in 6 different wildlife and area signs in Pine Bay, Swansea Point, and around Santa Monica as well. Another thing that I was really busy with this year, just like last year, was our wildlife awareness and bear spray workshops. So I was able to deliver 9 presentations this season to the various community groups that are listed there. So the wildlife awareness and bear safety presentations teach people things like recreating safely outdoors, how to reduce human-wildlife conflict in their own community, and how to manage their bear attractants. And then the bear spray workshops are designed to teach people how to actually use bear spray so they get to practice within their bear spray, and we do a big demonstration outdoors. So 9 presentations in total. I was also very busy with our Wild Safe Ranger program, which is a school program where I go to schools and teach kids about how they can grow up reducing human wildlife conflict by doing things like going in their own backyard and looking for bear attractants. Also, things like what to do if they encounter a bear or a cougar or a coyote or another type of wild animal. So I went to 6 elementary schools this season and was able to reach 762 students. I also did a BC Goes Wild event, which we do every single year. This is the 8th annual one, and it runs for the month of September. This BC Goes Wild event is a celebration of BC's great diversity of wildlife. So for this one, I hosted a wildlife scavenger hunt, and I did this at 3 different parks, including Blackburn Park in Salmon Arm, Malakoff Community Park, and Cedar Heights Park in Blind Bay. I posted informational posters like the ones you see on the photos there, all around the park, and people had to go around and find those and use those to answer a master answer sheet. Once they answered the master answer sheet, they were able to unscramble for the master answer, and if they submitted that, they were entered to win a prize. Overall, I got a lot of positive feedback about this event that I hosted. So back to our bin tagging. So as I mentioned, bin tagging is an educational activity where I will drive around a community and place a highly visible warning sticker like the one on the screen there on a solid waste bin. So that could be garbage, organics, or even recycling that's been placed out the night before collection day. So unsecured garbage is one of the top attractions in the Columbia Shoe Shop and also in the province of BC actually. So I visited each community twice or each area twice to see if the education was able to make a difference in the residents' behavior. So I completed all of the solid waste collection zones in the city of Salmon Arm. For area G, they have their private collection with Shoe Shop and Biro, and I was able to do this in Blind Bay, including Blind Bay Road and Sorrento. So 784 residents in the city of Salmon Arm were educated on the solid waste bylaw that they have in place. 34 bins were tagged in CSRD Area G, and they received a warning sticker educating them on the BC Wildlife Act that says they should not attract a bear to their property with garbage. So these are the black bear reports for from 2016. You can come directly from the Conservation Officer Service. It's also uploaded daily to our public alert reporting program, or we call it WARP. And anyone can do these free to access on our website. So Salmon Arm has had the highest volume of black bear 196 reports last year and 179 reports so far this year. Sicamous had the second highest number of black bear calls made, with 37 calls made last year, and slightly lower this year with 16 so far. Area G was the third highest, with 30 last year and 43 this year. And Area E is the lowest actually, with 6 made last year and 12 made this year. So this is taken from our wildlife reporting program on our website. It shows where the reports of wildlife came from and where, when they were made to the conservation officer, it pops up on the map about where the approximate location was. So the wildlife alert reporting program, or WARP, has been down for this year, but this is taken from 2022. So it shows the approximate location of where the reports came from and what kind of species were reported. There's even a raccoon on there, which is interesting. So some opportunities for Sicamous. So really popular this year was our Wild Safe Ranger program, and it's free for schools, student groups. So this is an opportunity for Parkview and Eagle River Secondary. And I actually did visit Parkview because there was some CSRD Area E kids in those classes. Another opportunity is our wildlife awareness and bear spray training workshops, which are very popular with all kinds of organizations, anything from school staff training to staff training at businesses, public events as well. Another opportunity is the posting of signage following frequent wildlife sightings in an area, which is usually done either based on talking to residents, seeing where their bears or other wildlife are frequenting. or done at the request of the North Ridge operators. Another opportunity is door-to-door education. So if there's an area that's experiencing high human wildlife conflicts, I go door-to-door and talk to these residents specifically to help them figure out why they might have these animals living on their property or near their property. Another opportunity is participation in the Columbia Shuswap Wildlife Working Group. So this was created in 2021 with the Sunnybrook Canoe Conference, and it is a working group that is dedicated to reducing wildlife conflict across the Shuswap. So we have members of the Sunnybrook Canoe Point Stewardship Society, BC Conservation Foundation, the conservation officers. We have the directors from the different areas, and we also have the city of Salmon Arm as well. Another opportunity is a bear hazard assessment, which is what this program works towards for most communities, and I'm going to let Lisa talk about this a bit. So now onto the Wildlife BC funding. This is where Lisa Lopez is going to step in. She's online.
Can everybody hear? Yes, good.
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, there was a request to speak a little bit to the layout of the funding for our WildSafe BC programming. So we have a couple funding sources that come in to the Columbia Shuswap WildSafe BC program. We have our areas G and E contributing, and then City of Salmon Arm, and then if the District of Sicamous decides to come on board this next year, then that would be included here. I've included this graphical representation, but I also realized that the text has come out quite small, so it might be really hard to tell quite where you fit on there. It is a predictive graph where you might come in if you decide to join in next season. And you're the District of Sicamous is represented there in the yellow part of that pie. So the yellow is the District of Sicamous, the gray is City of Salmon Arm, the area ENG is the orange, and then we also have grant funds that come from the provincial government. It is a challenge for us to predict what that amount will be until their fiscal year changes, which is, as most know, the end of March. So, but we have actually gotten some confirmation from them for an earlier confirmation of the amount of funding that would come towards us. So we are hopeful that this 2024 season coming up, we will have earlier notice on that grant amount. So the grant amount is in addition to the community amounts. And then our parent organization, the BC Conservation Foundation, contributes some funding as well in terms of supportive materials and the positions at the provincial level. So my position is program manager. We have a program coordinator, we have a communications coordinator, all working at the provincial level to, again, provide the support to our local community coordinators. So, that's the breakdown of the different funding pieces. We, again, did a bit of a predictive setting here in terms of District of Sicamous. We thought because you don't have the automated bins pickup, that would be a little bit less, that would be a contribution there. And then we were looking, Livia and I were looking at the school opportunities, the children group opportunities, and the local organizations, businesses that might want the wildlife awareness training, those things that she showed on the previous slide. And the funding amount that different communities provide to a regional program like this one, like the Columbia Shuswap program, is the amount of funding provided is then connected to how much programming can happen in that area. And we have set up the Columbia Shuswap program as a more of a regional program to allow for someone to have so that it becomes a position that is is worthwhile for someone to take in the area. So if we, separated out each of these different groups, the potential there is that there wouldn't be enough of a position for someone to take the position and then carry through the work during the season. So that's why it's a joint effort in that area. It does allow for that position to be more enticing for someone. So that again is a brief and very much an overview of the funding opportunity there and layout. And I realized, Bianca, you had mentioned there might be some questions around this too, so that's why I attended. Olivia is the person that's doing all the work in the area during the season, but the funding stuff comes back at us at the provincial group, and the provincial team here. So yeah, so that's the funding piece. And Olivia, I think the next slide was in there too, and there was just that other component from the Columbia Shuswap bear working group, and they are working towards having a possible bear hazard assessment done for this next season or coming up in the spring. As that group, if there was interest in becoming a Bear Smart community or following some of the guidelines for Bear Smart community status, that would be part of that opportunity for the community to come on board. So this is directly from the provincial Bear Smart community program, and this is something that we work from and try to encourage communities to become a part of, or at least follow those guidelines. So again, the bear hazard assessment is one of those things that bear working group is interested in looking into for this next season. So that's an additional piece to this next season coming up, potential. So that is what I was going to share. So.
Okay. Thank you all. I just want to thank my funders, the Province of BC, the CSRD, BC Conservation, and the City of Salmon right now. So thank you for listening, and I will be happy to answer any questions about the program. Any funding questions, I will get those to be directed to Lisa. She is very good.
Thank you, Olivia. Yeah, you guys know what you're talking about. Bianca.
Yes, so Lisa, just because we're talking budget right now, how much would we have to earmark in order to participate in the program right now?
Yeah, so I took a look at that with Kayla, who is our project coordinator or finance person. And we just kind of looked at what was contributed last year, size, and as I mentioned with Olivia, the potential activities for your area. And we sort of figured that, if we did somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000, that would be great. But I will also say that depending on what the availability of funds is, right, bringing in less than that would just end up having a little less programming in the area. Because it's a regional program, the contribution from District of Sicamous would not be it would be added to the pot, right? And so we can still make the position happen with the groups coming in together. And so it would just indicate that there would just be less time for the coordinator to spend in the area. That's what, but Kayla and I kind of figured around 3,000 to 4,000 would be a reasonable amount to provide the support that, again, Olivia and I were kind of looking at would be in that area, again, for school programs, for presentations, not having the bin tagging as a thing in your community right now, and then the various collaborative work that we do with communities for issues that come forward. So
Thank you, Councillor Rich.
Thank you for the presentation. Awesome. I've got 3 questions. So my first one would be with the 16 bear reports in Sycamoose district, Sycamoose, last year. One, are they all black bear, and are there, like, is there a cluster where, you know, it's the same bear, or is it 16 different bears? You know, is it one little neighborhood? Do you know that, those statistics?
They are all black bears and they are all different reports, because when they, when the COs give me their data, it's, one report is open for a specific bear, and then there's updates on it. If they determine it's the same bear, sometimes it's hard to tell, but those are like 16 different residents that were having conflicts with bears or sightings of a bear.
But do we know that like, it could be one bear moving in a community, or we don't really know
Yeah,
that?
absolutely good. The COs are usually pretty good at, they'll know like the bears based on the color, based on like where they're out. So they often are just updating the report if they think it's the same one. If they think it's newer, then they'll open up a new report. But it's not for sure that it's 16 different bears, but it's possible that it is.
Okay, then my next question is, in Sycamoose, we, like, I saw the raccoon and I was like, yay. So we have, a big raccoon and a big rat problem. Like, we actually don't compared to other communities, but what we're trying to do is not have a big rat problem or a raccoon problem. And we do have that. Do you guys do information on that? Because honestly, if I had to say, just as a counselor, I think we have way more people that are concerned in our community about raccoons and rats than they are bears. So is there some kind of specific programming towards that to get out to our community? We're trying, but again, it's, you know, they're urban wildlife. They're smart. We don't contain them. They, you know, we don't contain our garbage and compost.
Yeah, so we talked about this in the wildlife working group with all the counselor or with all the directors, and we actually had last year the invasive species council. They're the experts with reporting rats and knowing the rats populations and things like that. So we talked to them. So that's what the wildlife working group kind of works towards as well. But in terms of Wildlife BC, we do, like in Saginaw, for example, as well, there's also a rat issue, there's also a raccoon issue. I've been doing door-to-door education, talking to residents about what they can do to make sure that they're securing things like compost, garbage as well, even things like bird seed or trees is also going to attract rats. That helps not only with a raccoon or a rat issue getting attracted to your property, but that also helps with bears and deer as well. So a lot of the education we do is it benefits all wildlife. When I go to schools, for example, we do talk about things like rats, not just bears as well, because the kids, they see them growing up. Whenever I tell them there's raccoons in the area, they always say, oh, there's trash pandas. So we do talk about that. We do learn like how we can reduce conflict with all kinds of wildlife, not just bears. We don't have a specific, we don't have a bin tagging thing that's specifically targeted at rats or raccoons. It's just our efforts are hopefully going to help all wildlife conflicts with people.
And my third question is, there's a bird on this thing, and I was like, who reported a bird and what did the bird do?
It's sort of a bird. It's probably some sort of a bird of prey, so hawk, eagle, owl. Most likely when they're reported, they are getting hit by vehicles.
Okay.
People are finding them dead on the side of a road or a trail, so that's when they report them usually. I haven't seen any other cases in the area where it's something else.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, yeah, thank you very much, Olivia and Lisa, for your presentation. Just trying to get the overall picture of the funding. Can you have a breakdown of each percentage? Like, what's your formula, or how do you, how do you derive at 14% for Sycamoose? Or is it like you have a number for population, or how do you do that?
So what the 14% was just based off of, again, kind of the contributions that came in this year from those different communities, as well as our provincial amount that we were able to get this year. So, it just, kind of showed that section being how much, would come forward from your area if you decided to. And again, it was based on yeah, it's based on, the number of residents that are there, the opportunities for, the activities that we have. If you ever look at our program activities, there's a long list of options. Not every community is the same. That's why, right? So we adjust what programming activities we're doing in an area based on what that area needs, right? So again, you wouldn't need the bin tagging programming, but there's other opportunities that would be available in your area that another area would want to focus just on bin tagging. So those kinds of things, again, we weighed that in. Kayla and I, when we were looking into this, based on what Olivia had kind of said, knowing that Columbia Shuswap region, as she does, moving through it every day all the time, she sort of said, yeah, I think I could get in this many hours for this activity, this many hours for this activity with your area residents.
Okay, and what was your annual budget? What was your annual budget?
Sorry, I just missed that, sorry.
Like what revenue does all these represent? Like total revenue of like 27%, 22%? What is that? What's your annual revenue from these sources, funding sources?
So the total amount, like the
Yes.
total budget amount.
Yes.
I'd have to get Kayla to pull that up. I don't, she's the one that kind of controls those documents, so I'd have to get her to pull it up to send those specific numbers.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get a picture. Thank you.
I could have her send over a current budget and then a predicted budget for our projected budget for next year if that was something that would be helpful.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. Very informative. And I have more of a question to staff on where we're sitting on, and if we do know yet where we're sitting with our projected tax increase. If we've gotten the assessment information in yet, or.
I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay.
So we could, Lisa, when would we have to make a decision on participating or not?
Sure. So our application is going to be distributed in January. So it'll come out to everybody on our contact list, including yourselves. And that for the month of January, we take in those applications. And then what has happened over the this year is we've worked with the ministry to try to get that provincial funding in place earlier on. So as soon as we, end that application intake time at the end of January, in February, we take a look at, okay, so, who's come in to apply, and basically what you're doing with that application is indicating your interest in having the program in the area. And then we, take a look at what kind of provincial funding we're able to expect and rely on. And then we put together those essentially the programs for each area. And then we bring in either returning coordinators if they're willing to return and still in the area, or new people we post for the job. So that's kind of our timeline. So January would be the best time to decide if you're wanting the program in your area.
Thank you. Yes, Bianca, and then Pam.
So perfect. So we could make a decision on the January 24th Finance Committee meeting, if that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That data roll in and then.
Good stuff. Councillor Beach.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Olivia and Lisa, for this really good sort of overview of what's happening. I think it's really important. I wondered, I've got a couple of questions. I wondered if there's any sense of the numbers of encounters actually increasing, or status, or whatever that's motivating a sort of an overall plan for this. Is there any data that way?
There is data. If I go through the big Excel file sent to CEOs, it says what kind of encounter it was. Most often it's a sighting of the wildlife.
Okay.
The next most popular one is usually, we talk about bears, for example, it's usually food conditioned bears, so bears that are accessing food on the property and showing dangerous behavior. Next after that, it could be, if the bear is accessing livestock, that the bear is present when they're there or absent, or it's aggressive or not aggressive kind of thing. And then for other species of wildlife as well, like the most common one is usually like finding deceased wildlife in the area, or aggressive encounters. That's usually what people report to the conservation officers.
Okay.
That being said, though, a lot of the reporting in the Columbia District actually is underreported. So just general sightings, people don't want to call in to the conservation officers. They think that something's going to happen to that wild animal. So a lot of the information I get of where to do my education comes from actually the community Facebook pages.
Okay.
That's where I see sightings.
So I guess specifically too, I was thinking about like hiking encounters and on our trails, and because that's something that we're really developing. So we've got lots, but we're looking at more. So to me, that's really something to think about in terms of being prepared for and educating about that piece. So
Yeah, and that's what we talk about a lot in our wildlife awareness workshops.
Yeah.
Is I teach people that if they're gonna go out, be prepared, carry bear spray, know how to avoid encountering a bear, know how to see and respond to seeing a bear.
Yeah.
And also, if they've encountered a bear, popular trailhead, even if it's not very popular, or just a trailhead that people are using, that they should always report it to the conservation officers. Just so that others can be aware as well.
yeah, thank you. I think that's really important for us to
Definitely.
keep in mind.
Okay, good stuff. Malcolm, you okay? Yeah, he's fine. Okay. I see a hand. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll be able to, as everybody said, talk more on January about what we're gonna do.
So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Olivia. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. All right, moving along, operating items carried forward from November 22nd finance meeting. Bianca.
Yes, so we're just gonna be going through some of the items that we didn't get to at our very busy last finance committee meeting. So the first one was housing initiatives. So at the last regular council meeting, there was a resolution put through for direct staff to look in for an EOI for additional plans for duplexes and all that. Not sure if Siobhan would want to touch on this, being a part of the housing committee or.
Yeah, so I would. We had chatted a bit. We weren't sure that duplexes was the way we wanted to go. It actually hadn't been discussed within the housing our group there. But we didn't come out with what we needed, what we thought we should be asking for. So we were going to do that at our next meeting. But the plans cost us $16,000. I think the big thing here, and maybe Mel can, is Mel there? Can pipe in too, is like housing is going to be an issue for the next 10 years easily. And I personally feel like 16,000 is probably not enough, that we should probably be looking at 20 or 25. And then if we don't spend it, just so that it's tagged. But again, we're going into completely unknown territory. And that's what happened here is we just, blindly said, because we, again, had not done it, 10,000. And then when we got some good plans that would suit Sycamoose and vetted the people that could provide that for us, we were at we were almost double our budget. So I would suggest that, we went in at 20 or 25. And then if the library is what we're going to continue doing, there's options to do, look at co-ops. We've got a lot of different things, but housing is going to be an issue for a long time, and it is going to cost Sycamoose money. So maybe Mel can pipe in too.
Sure. Is that okay to speak, Chair?
Please.
Yeah, I know I agree with everything Siobhan said. I'm thinking maybe 20,000 for a line item. And then at our next housing committee, we can define how that might be spent. So if we were to earmark 20,000 for now, and then after we make our first pass, after Bianca gets BC assessment, property assessment, we can fine tune our budget, see how 20,000 impacts the overall increase to taxpayers. But I think for now, I would ask council to consider putting the line item for 20,000 for housing for 2024.
Okay, Bianca and Kelly?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this is funding so we do have a housing reserve. I believe we put 20,000 a year into it, right? So this would just be coming out of the reserve. It wouldn't come out of taxation revenue for the year. So we can put a placeholder there, and if we don't spend it, that's fine. We just don't pull the money out of the reserve.
Awesome.
So it's when we fund things from our general taxation that it actually affects our tax rates
Copy that.
Okay,
directly here.
okay.
Does that sound, Siobhan, does that sound okay to you as far as the housing committee?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Okay,
Awesome. Okay, and then, so our next operational item is Finless in Place. So as we know, last year at the beginning of the year, we lost a tenant, but then we brought a new one in. So we're actually ending up a bit better than last year. Last year we budgeted a $9,200 deficit. This year we're up a bit at a $5,900 deficit. Keeping in there, we've bumped up contracted services a little bit, just knowing that that's an older building. And yeah, so any comments on Finless in Place?
comments, questions? We're good.
Okay. Next, building inspection. So this one, as we know, we've had some changes to our building inspector position. So last year at budget time, of course, it's always our best estimate of what the year's gonna look like. And at this budget time last year, we were contracting our building inspector to Revelstoke, so we were budgeting some revenue there. Of course, we all know 2023, it changed up a bit. So we are no longer contracting to Revelstoke. We have a new inspector in. That inspector is going through some training. So we do need to bring in a higher level inspector. Comes in right now on Fridays. So we budgeted an additional contracted services there. And the overall impact here is just over $50,000 to the bottom line. So a little bit of a hit. There's ups and downs throughout the budget. And yeah, if we want to discuss this one at all, or
Discussing, go ahead, Kelly.
I also just wanted to point out that we don't have what our tax assessment values are gonna be, but we do have an overall estimate of the change over last year, and it's not looking horrific right now.
no.
It's looking relatively more reasonable than other areas. Right, so it's like maybe around, I don't even know, because I haven't gone through any details.
Yeah.
But it's not looking horrific based on if the assessment was exactly the same.
So, and this one, I'll talk about some items later that help offset it. So
It is what
it is what it is. We just need to highlight the big ups and downs throughout the budget. So,
Councillor Bushel and then Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, Bianca or Kelly, does Don come in every Friday, or like, is he kind of like on call? I was just curious.
for 2024, I think the plan is like, we'll have them set for every Friday, but if Nicole determines like he's not needed or anything, she'll communicate that to him. So it'll be an as needed basis, but right now it's pretty much every Friday.
Every Friday he
Yeah.
comes in because he needs to do level 3 inspections, which we have a lot of right now, and Tyson has questions and needs guidance, so it's very important that he comes in every Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bailey.
So I guess this is just looking at 2024, but the longer term plan is once Tyson gets up, that would fall away into previous, okay.
Ideally, that contract services will be 0.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
So you
Kind of
like-
what the,
And maybe next year half, and then the year after it'll be gone. Because I think in 3 years, he can be a level 3. He'll be writing his level 1 here soon.
okay,
So yes.
okay. Oh, thank you.
Good stuff. Comments, questions?
Is what it is.
Good stuff.
Okay. And the next one business license revenue, so. Now that we are. Regulating short-term rentals, we have this new short-term rentals piece, with letters sent out and everything. Nicole has gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of people coming in with applications, everything. They did a whole look at all the short-term rentals in Sycamoose, and there's about 180, our list came out to. So budgeting that we're gonna get, close to pretty good compliance, 120. But also knowing that we do need a little bit of more bylaw enforcement in there. So this is affecting the bottom line positively, about $6,300. So if anyone wants to try for that, yeah.
Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I looked at the projections and they're. I'm a little worried you're gonna get 120, just on the stuff that I've been hearing in the community about it, the concerns. I know we want to get there, but. What is kind of the 120 based on? I mean, maybe you guys have better information than what I'm getting. Probably, well, we certainly have better information than what I'm getting, but why the 120?
Nicole, we have a very detailed spreadsheet with lots of
Okay.
colors on it. Yeah, Nicole spent a lot of time wrapping her head around who's out there, because we've sent out a bunch of letter, who's applied, who hasn't, has been following up. So maybe Nicole can just highlight.
Yeah, so we probably have about maybe 170 properties that are advertised online for short-term rentals. And we've issued letters to most. There's some that we're still waiting on next steps. And it's a mixed bag right now of what's happening. People are applying for short-term rental licenses. Some people have chosen to pull their advertisements. I guess it's just on the daily. We're still learning what that looks like. That could probably be dropped to 90 or 100.
Just one other question, Mr. Chair. So out of those 120 or 170, there's a whole bunch of areas in Sycamoose that we won't allow short-term rentals. Is that taking into account once you strip them out of the areas that is not prohibited, or that 170 is in all potential areas where we would allow them? Or is that just the total that is currently there now?
It looks like, through the chair, we have about 30 that are advertised online, and technically, you can't have a short-term rental there. There are, people proposing creative ways like bed and breakfast if they're living there on the property. We do allow that as a home-based business instead of a short-term rental. Yeah, so we're just having those conversations with the owners as they call in.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if we should be a little more conservative. If we already know out of probably that 120, 30 are not eligible unless they come and council changes that, which we have done a couple, but I don't think we'll probably do 30. So maybe that should be down to 80 or something. I don't know.
100.
Yeah, well, if there's 30 that are eligible, but that means that the total pool would be, 140. So if we got 120 out of 140, that would be extremely high.
And let's not forget, this doesn't include, we will be issuing penalties, so we haven't really.
Oh, I see.
Into consideration either in our budget yet.
No, I haven't.
And that'll be coming to the next finance meeting is what we're gonna be doing for penalties. So there will be other revenue, and okay, maybe we were a little optimistic at 120. But there could be other revenue, right? So we'll see. We'll maybe see how it goes in January, February, and then tweak it before we finalize it.
Okay, fair enough.
He is a big motivator.
But I could also, I know last year when we talked about buying, we said, put it to reserve, whatever we make extra. I could lower this, so it's
Net
net
zero.
zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
Other comments?
Okay. So the next point is auditing services. So I'm not sure if you saw our last week's weekly update, our auditors were here, talking with our auditors. They're increasing rates for a lot of things, and talking to other municipalities, it's happening to everyone. We do have a new standard asset retirement obligations, which is quite a bit of work. So 35,000, it's $10,000 increase, 5,000 of that is due to asset retirement obligation. The other 5,000 is due to them increasing rates just overall for all their clients. Yeah, if anyone wants to speak auditing services, super fascinating, I know.
And I will say our rate is relatively low compared to other municipalities. Like,
Yeah.
it's not because we're not providing clean stuff, it's that they have to go through their auditing procedures.
Yeah, and talking to other municipalities, like one of the municipalities that uses the exact same firm we did, they went out to RFP this year. They're still with the same firm. Price didn't change. So they're trying to be competitive, but they're also trying to pay their employees a living wage. So it was, yeah, it's catching up to us, but.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And then water and sewer. So this is Daryl's baby right here. So, water, merit distribution, materials and supplies, increase of 8,000. Consistently over the past 2 years, we've been more in the $30,000 range for materials and supplies. So just bringing the budget up to be more consistent. Daryl is looks at every invoice very diligently, so he wants to speak on this.
It's just the bare essentials, basically. We're not bringing in a whole bunch of extras. These are, we do have, don't let Bianca hear this, we have a small inventory, and she doesn't like inventory. Yeah, spare parts and stuff, but for the most part, we're pretty bare bones.
Fair enough.
Question on that, hey, sewer lift station maintenance materials. Sewer up 5,000, again, increasing it to what we've seen over the last 3 years. 50,000 is more in line with the previous last 3 years actuals. Oh, same there, Daryl, for that one.
Yeah, I think we're pretty solid there, yeah.
Yeah, and then sewer treatment plant contracted services. We've been consistently spending about 40 every year, so increasing that one to be more in line with current costs. And then the biggest increase out of them all, sewer treatment plant materials. This is mostly due to chemicals. So through work done this last year, it was determined we ended up changing chemicals. It was better for our plant, but it also comes at a higher price per volume. Volume levels have been tested over the last year. This year we were quite high just because we were trying to figure out that perfect dosage. So I believe 175 this year could be adequate, and Daryl wants to touch on that at all.
Sure. So we are with a new polymer at the plant, and so we haven't done a full year with it. It's aluminum, and it reacts a little different. We've noticed with temperature going down. We brought this new polymer in because, the scientists behind the scene that we're doing the lab work said this one will work best with your pH and everything else. And so it did perform really, really well. We were actually in the phosphorus lagoon, the old phosphorus lagoon. We were adding this new aluminum alum, and it was precipitating out really aggressively. Almost, well, I won't say too much, but we were really getting built up quickly. So it was working really, really well. We were at a point where we were commissioning all the new equipment. So, we knew there'd be a bit of scrutiny on us because we were submitting our results to MOE, and, this is our new plant and we've commissioned it and it's working. So we went in at a recommended level from the engineer, what to dose at, which, after a month or so, I'm like, okay, bring it down, because we were going in pretty aggressive with the number that he had suggested to make sure that at the end, when we sample, we're good. So we were really good, and you don't want to take big swings at it, so we're taking it down 10% every couple of weeks. So we've knocked our amount down by about half. Started. Weather hit in November, we're fading the other way. So it's going to be a little bit of lab work and playing with it. And, overall, I think, yeah, the number shot up pretty high. We had 2 chemicals going at one time. So it'll be better next year, but, you know, still a little bit of an increase, not as bad as it was looking.
Okay, thanks, Daryl.
And just on this note, the water and sewer, that doesn't affect our taxes, that affects our water and sewer rates, which Bianca's been looking at and will be presented at next council meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I bet they're not going down.
No, one's going up.
Okay. So the next item, so this is 2 short-term debt repayments. So this is proposed actually for 2023 amendment for our next council meeting. So I've been looking at the different rates we've been getting. I do not know why this is.
Sometimes it does that.
Silly. Anyway, if we zoom in here, can I?
Yeah, it'll all of a sudden it'll do click.
Oh, there we go.
I know.
Okay.
It's weird.
So this is I'm gonna explain how this works. It's a little bit confusing. So when we brought in the hockey accommodation facility, the Eagle's Nest, we've been paying for it through our COVID grant that we received. So looking at it, when we first got it, of course, interest rates were quite low. This is short-term debt. So it fluctuates based on the prime interest rate. So when we got it, it was around 1%. Now it's 5.6%. So we were always going to fund it through the COVID grant. I'm proposing we pay it off now. So I put it on our next council. If with your guys' blessing, I'm putting it to our next council meeting to do a resolution to pay it off, save the interest. And in doing so, we would be taking the hockey facility out of our usual COVID grant summary that we do, and we would be bringing it into our regular general revenue, in which case our hockey facility actually does make a bit of a profit each year to the tune of 34,000. So that would be coming into general revenue to help keep our taxes lower. So we'll talk about that one too in a sec, but I'm just going to also open up. We also have.
And that MFA debt is 5 years short term, right? That's considered short-term debt. It's
Yeah.
MFA floating. That's how they do it.
Still doesn't want to do it for me, okay. And then another one that we have an equipment loan for our loader. So when we originally set up this loan, the interest rate on it was 0.93%. It is now 5.63%. So I'm just proposing, let's pay it off now. And that will end up bringing into general revenue. So pay it off in December, get it off our books, and that'll bring in just over 15,000 into general revenue. We can reduce expenses in the operating, because this one's right now is hitting our general revenue operating.
Because it's a lease payment.
Yeah,
We treat it as a lease payment, so all the payments go as an expense each year. So if we're able, are you planning on paying it back with reserves?
yeah.
Equipment reserves? And then that lease payment is no longer being expensed, which helps with our tax situation.
And this payment, it's interesting. So what it does is our payment's the same every month. The interest fluctuates, and then our total payout at the end is changed because of that interest, or our final payment is more. So while it might not be like a big thing in 2024, all that interest too is going to catch up in the future. So yeah,
Makes sense.
basic interest rates are increasing. Yeah, Siobhan.
Through the chair. So what does that leave us in a reserve? So if something else breaks and we need money quick,
Yeah, we can cover it with reserves just fine.
but we can
Yeah.
cover this and then they'll still be.
Yeah.
There's graphs on the equipment reserves later on.
Oh, okay.
We'll
Okay, sorry.
show you what it looks like in a pretty picture here
Yeah, okay.
shortly. Okay.
Councilor Bailey?
So that's about a 1% increase in it looks like about 1%, right? Yeah.
Like we just talked about building and stuff, and it like helps offset that, yeah.
So I guess the question I would have is this money that we currently have, do we have that in interest bearing accounts? Is there an offset there? So because we're gonna be putting that money out and paying off the loans, there'll be an offset in terms of how much interest that we are earning on it.
Yeah, we're not making as much as we're paying for this interest.
Okay.
So we're overall would be saving by paying
I
it.
guess that was my next question is sometimes you can get 4.5% on some of the money these days, but we're not at that level.
No, we're not at 5%. level, no.
Okay.
So as a municipality, we're very limited in what we can put our money in. It's very restricted because it's taxpayers' money, so we have to be, and so a lot of them are cashable terms because we need to have access to them. And so the rates are not as great with a cashable term. We try to lock as many in as we can. They're always changing, but our interest rate isn't like, yes, it's better than it used to be, but it's still not as high as one would get with not being a cashable term. So you're right, though, there is that offset piece, and if anything, we actually budget less for our investment income. And then anything extra is kind of a bit gravy that year that can help us when things come up here and there.
But you've done the math and this works in our favor. Got it.
Yes.
Excellent. Comments, questions? Keep going.
Okay, so general capital. So we have our healing center budget. This is just based off of what we've used to date, with our budget that was presented at the last, finance meeting. So that in 2024, land housing project, this is just a carryover from prior year. We had 50 set aside, we're just carrying over. So these might slightly tweak just depending on final invoices. Daycare facility, this is just a placeholder for potential funds due to renovations. We had this on there last year. From general office reserve, and then 20,000 just for continual computer printer upgrades. It's a placeholder from general office reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just,
Councilor Bailey?
just have a question about the daycare facility because what's that for? It's $100,000. It's a big item.
Yeah, Kelly.
No, super great question. I was gonna pipe up on it. Regardless, so I did talk to Amar, so he was successful at getting a 90-10 grant. So he got approved under his society for 90% grant for the renovations on that building facility. And we made a high level commitment. We'll top up that 10%. However, talking to him, he is operating quite well at his daycare, and he's the math is working out. So he doesn't also want to jeopardize his funding with and I can't remember which grant he got awarded. So he doesn't think he'll be needing that 10%, but we're just leaving it there just in case. And we would, whenever that shakes out, we would come to council, but he is thinking that he will just cover that 10%, that he didn't want to jeopardize the 90% by getting any additional funding. I don't know the grant details that he had received, but that's kind of where we're sitting with that.
Yeah, he has a ton of, not a ton, he's got like 5 of these daycares, and so he knows how to get the grants and access the funding and stuff like that. So this is just probably backup that we're not going to use, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, so we made a commitment that up to 10% of the total cost, is that correct, would be covered by us? So roughly the cost is $1 million. We said, hey.
10%, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think it's 1.2. Actually, he was approved for, I want to say about that, but it's not going to be that much. But based on my phone call, he's pretty confident that he won't be tapping into that, and that we'll just revisit the lease agreement. Because the lease agreement as it stands, I believe is free rent for the first 18 months, and then he starts paying thereafter, 18 months after the renovations.
Oh, okay.
That would, I believe, I'd have to recheck the lease agreement. I'm off the top of my head. I know we looked at it in depth last year when we were stick handling this.
Then just one other, so this is, and I just want to be clear, this is for the renovations that are being done for the daycare to bring it to the $10 a daycare level or the other.
And infant toddler facilities and after school club facilities that currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a couple things. It's to expand it. So right now it only has, I think, ability for 20, previously, I think 24 ages 30 months to 5 years. And so now it's going to go from infant 0 to 12 and open up a lot more spaces. And as well, it's a licensed daycare. So our kids club right now that we offer isn't a licensed daycare. So there's no subsidy available for parents. Now, the after-school programming will be at a licensed facility. So the actual parent pays only a small fraction of what they used to pay. Right? So it allows, because it's licensed, people to benefit from all the subsidies that are around that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Malcolm,
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Yeah, just for the sake of anybody that might be listening from the public, there was some concerns about, how come we're spending so much money on that? So it's grant money. Grant money is secured by our operator. And the other question the public had was like, who owns that building? So just to clarify, we still own the building. We're just leasing it to an operator, just so the public understands that.
thank you, Malcolm. The comments, questions? Yeah,
I just want to, comment on how fortunate we are to have this facility and great work to purchase it and move forward with it. And now from 0 to 12, I think it's just such a benefit for our parents and our community. Thanks, Bob. That was a you move.
well, it was a team effort, but thank you. All right. Malcolm, you still have your hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
checking to make
just-
sure you
yeah.
were done. Thank you, Counselor. All right,
Okay, and then just looking at the 5-year, so we have computers, consistent, we just do 20 every year. And then just the medical equipment for the healing center coming from grants and reserves. So Karen is working on that piece. And yeah.
okay, good stuff. Question, yes, Counselor Bailey.
So the medical and office equipment won't come out until the 2025. So we'll go over that in 2025.
It'll be revisited.
There you go.
This is a high level.
As it might change.
Yes, let's call this an allowance, right? We really don't know all the, I would say it's a pretty high allowance, and we do have a lot of medical equipment we can move over there. And even the healing center, all to be done in 2024. We're actually just finalizing the budget. So not the budget, the contract, which will detail out the schedule. So right now, I believe tentatively, but this isn't firmed up yet, starting in March, shell and site works done in September. So I'm thinking interior, like maybe we do March to March 2025. So we don't really know. We might split the timing of that in terms of years, but that's just the best information we have as of today. We're just going to keep the building in 2024 and the equipment and everything in 2025, and it will shift.
Okay, good stuff. Bianca?
Okay, and then just looking at the 5-year reserve chart for the office and computer equipment. So we put in 50 every year. And yeah, that's projection. So it's a pretty healthy reserve on our books right now. And going over to recreation. So this one's a very busy one, I would say. Our recreation. So pathways and trails, we have a $100,000 placeholder for 2024. Our focus for 2024, right now being the pathway from the South Squaw Bridge to the traffic light along Highway 1. And then, so from recreation reserves, we also have the pump track for 450. So on the next council meeting, I have on there for applying for $200,000 from the Economic Opportunity Fund. So the net there just on the reserve would be 200,000, not the 450. Finless improvements, some lighting and power upgrades around the pump track, bringing in 3-phase power and doing those upgrades while the pump track's happening. If we're going to be moving dirt, we might as well move all the dirt we need to. Mountain bike park, I'll let Daryl talk on that in a second. And then Finless and dock replacement. I'll just touch on this one quickly. We have one dog. So dock right here. Fire fitness and boat launch, that is not in the best shape right now. So Daryl has gotten someone on site to look at it, just to give a highball. We've put in just under 150,000. We think it's gonna be a bit less than that, but just to be on the higher end, because it is a dock, of course. And yeah, and I'll let Daryl touch on any of those items.
Then do it.
Yeah, is there any questions? Yeah, sure.
Councilor Rich and then Mayor Anderson.
Through the chair. And I don't know if it's Daryl or Kelly, we had spoke about the smaller park. So the preschool had approached about upgrading, and they were looking for funds. Actually, they're trying to fundraise to do that park. And then I spoke to Kelly, and Kelly said, no, that's our park. We should be kind of doing some stuff with that. And we chatted about if that's this budget or next budget, and we would talk. So I don't know if this is the time to talk, but I'm here.
100%. That's what special request down on the bottom. Sycamoose Preschool has recently reached out to discuss improvements. So that little, I think it's called Centennial Park over there. The preschool uses it a lot because the preschool's in there, but it's our park, open to the community. Anybody can use it. And they've been they're going around looking for grants to upgrade it. It could use a little work over there. So they actually, on the grant and aid, made a request. I think our grant and aid, like the Shuswap Community Foundation, approved about $10,000 to go towards this playground. Well, this playground is our playground, right? So if we're paying for it out of that, well, if we're gonna do anything, it might as well be captured in our 5-year financial plan, right? And then we'll figure out how we're gonna fund it and what year we're gonna do it. So I believe Corey Miller, we reached out to her and asked her to send out, Daryl and I talked to her and asked her to send us all the information that she wanted for that park, and we still haven't received it. We gave her Daryl's, so we can put a placeholder in there. I think you were saying 50,000?
Yeah, their number is 55,000. I do have the paperwork. I have to ask her if I can share it with you, but I'm pretty sure I can. And it's a really important, I just want to say it hasn't been touched in 25 years for upgrades for the equipment. I think there's been one piece put in within 25 years, but it's also a community thing. And if we're doing the pump track and stuff, because you're going to put your 13-year-old on the pump track, and then mom's going to have a bunch of little kids running around. So I think it's really important. And it's like our community, the preschool, and anybody that stops to picnic or is at the rec center and doing all that park thing. It's a really busy park in Sycamoose.
And it's due.
It is due, yeah, it's overdue. So, and it's loved within the community. So I can get those numbers to you there.
Well, and if it's around, like, I think it's around $55,000. And I know the request had some administrative stuff in there too. It says like, anyways, here nor there, we can work out the details. I guess really the question is does council want to put it in our 5-year capital plan to do some upgrades over there? And if so, does it make sense? And I don't know from a Daryl, the reality of getting it done, because we got the pump track and everything. Does it make sense to do it this year or next year after the pump track in terms of resources? And it would come probably out of our recreation reserve, which we do have a pretty healthy budget of $100,000 a year. So
are doing a lot in the next couple years.
So it looks like year 4, it could get a little under. This graph changes, you know.
Okay.
And I also just want to mention, because I talked to Robin, she's just waiting on us. So right now of our grant money, they do have earmarked the 10,400. She's waiting on us to determine what we want to do with that. Because technically right now, they were going to go back and say your application wasn't appropriate. So they were going to take that off. But if we want to use that 10,000, we pony up our 40 from reserves, we could make something happen this year, next year, whatever council. Right, because this technically is like our money, right?
So it's our money. So this is where if council is open to us doing some upgrades over there, we'll work with the preschool, we'll put it in the budget, we'll figure out how we'll pay for it and then report back.
Gerald, do you have comments?
No, I think it's pretty well covered. I guess the only point I would make is, we're sitting here thinking it's a good idea. possibly. I think the first step would be probably to get what they have in mind. Let's get that in front of us so we can evaluate it and see if it'll work for next year, because it will be busy over there.
Yeah.
Especially if we're bringing the power for a future outdoor arena or whatever we're thinking, all in that area.
Yeah.
Could be a lot for 1 year, but let's see what they have. I'd like to see.
Okay, Mayor Anderson.
So are you looking for our support, our blessing to move forward with this? Is that what we're? I think let's use the 10, and I think it's a really good idea. It's a great park. It's always so busy. It's right across from the pump track. I agree, moms with young kids, with the teenager over on the pump track, like it just makes really good sense for a community.
Councilor Bailey.
I agree, but I also agree with Daryl, like, can we
Oh,
the
sure.
information in, and then is it best to maybe come back to this once we get the information? And then we know exactly what they need?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll come back to Councilor Rich.
Through the chair. Yeah, and I mean, I think we personally just leave that grant money there because it'll roll over to next year. We can't go back now and have another meeting and hand it out to someone else. And we'll talk about the grants at a later date, but honestly, I think we did a really good job with, people got kind of what they needed. So if we put that into the, towards the park, I think that's a great way to do it, and then use 40, but Daryl's got to take a look at what they want, because I think the other part of that is, it's someone writing grant funds, and I write grant funds, and what I think it's going to cost and what it actually costs are, really big different things, because I don't understand cost of gravel and, things like that. So, yeah, I'll get it to you, Daryl.
So, and I.
Kelly, and then, okay.
And just, a blessing here is that 250 for the pump track is coming from EOF. So that frees up that recreation reserve, which clearly we're depleting quite heavily because we're investing heavily in our outdoor recreation, which I think is appropriate for our community. Specifically Finlayson Park, which we own. It has a lot of potential. So I think I just wanted to point that out, that with that EOF, it does free up that extra money, even though I know it's still tight, but we can look at a way to incorporate it in our 5-year plan. Might not be 2024, but maybe 2025, right?
Yeah.
Once we figure out all the other things.
Bianca?
And just for clarity, then I'll just hold tight on the 10,400 that's coming out right now from our community service grant. I'll tell Robin just a little bit. We do have the option, if we're over 10,000, to do a second round, but I think that's a lot of work for $10,000. So I wouldn't think we want to do that. So, yeah, we'll just wait on that until we get more information.
Councilor Beach and then Mayor Anderson.
To the chair, thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanna say how great it is I know we have a lot of projects going on in that park, but to develop some new facilities and outdoor accessible free facilities for this community and for our youth and children is just this is the way we should go, and it's exciting. It's all coming at once and a little overwhelming, but I'm really happy that we're doing this.
Excellent. Mayor Anderson.
Jimmy Sherlock says it all the time, unplug and play, and I think that our community is, we should make that part of our community slogan, unplug and go play. That wasn't what I was going to say, though. The EOF, that 250,000, it has to come to council first and then go to CSRD. Do we know when it's coming to council?
Next council meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuff.
Yeah, and then just looking at the 5-year, mountain bike park, Daryl, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add, other than there was a round table meeting last week, and Jeremy freed up his schedule and he went down to meet our new rep down there, Kelsey. I think it's Kelsey Knox or.
Oh.
So he made contact with her and they had a little visit, and it's made the top 3 priorities for this area. And she said she's reviewing our application this week. So he came away feeling pretty good about it. So. Cool. Crossed.
And then just other ones out, so 2025,
Maybe I'll get just a sec.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mayor Anderson?
Thanks. So Daryl, that is for the permit that George Hayman said that it's on his desk and it'll be cleared this
That's the
fall.
one. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, what, 10 days till fall is over?
It's rolling behind the scenes.
Council Bushel?
Okay,
It's fluid.
Just a quick one for Daryl. Daryl, on the ballpark diamonds, the fields themselves.
Yeah.
We were talking about kind of trying to roll through those. Is that just, you got that in the general?
Yeah.
fund?
We've got some materials that we can mix.
Mhm.
And I would like to get that back to drag and add some, take out some voids.
Yeah, like one a year, do one a year or whatever.
We were doing it every year, 4 inches at a time, and it was helping. We haven't done it in a little bit. So,
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bianca.
Okay, so for 2025, we have pathways, we have 50,000 placeholder across. Mountain bike park, hearing that we're continuing on with that, keeping that, phase 2, potentially 2025. Main Street green space improvements, that's just all the landscaping, improving that, green space.
I have a-
250, yeah.
I have a question.
Just a second. Go ahead, Bianca.
Oh, it's fine, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get past that without asking a question, because why are we doing green space landscaping for the healing center out of our recreation budget? Or reserve?
We could take it out of the general, like, we have that office reserve as well, that is potential. We could move that that's how we've had it earmarked in the past.
Because people recreate in green space. That's kind of.
Well, yeah, I guess that's my next question is, are we gonna have recreation activities on that green space? Because that was one of the things that I thought we weren't gonna do.
Okay, Council Reach, go ahead.
I'll speak to that through the
I
chair.
don't know.
Spaces, green spaces, even for relaxation are part of healing and therapy. So you can call it recreation as part of healing and therapy. You have to think broader. Whether or not you're playing games in a space or whatever.
I think there is.
I'm asking a question what that space is even going to be, because I haven't seen any drawings on what that space is gonna
Oh,
be.
okay, well,
Unless
there are
it's,
kind of some drawings.
but
Yeah, go ahead. I would say that a lot of that space, because we're saving so much of it, even with the building of the new healing center, is gonna be able to be used the way it has been before for different things like movies and hanging out. It's recreation for families, so.
is that correct?
You're asking why the Main Street green space is coming out of recreational reserves?
Maybe I can just clarify what I'm asking. Right? This is the Parks and Recreation Reserve, correct? Okay, so we know that the space is not a park. So we've gone over that many of times. And we're taking money out of the Parks and Recreation Reserve. I understand that, it's a green space. I get that. But I thought because of the level of sensitivity in the area that there was going to have to be some limitations on what we could use that space for. So my question really is just down to what is our plan for that space? And then is that space an appropriate space to do recreation and have people on and have people enjoying, whether it's picnics or anything else? That's really just a straight up question, because I don't think I don't know if we've gone that far in the planning. We've dealt with the shell, obviously council dealt with that, but I'm not sure if we've gotten into.
You're looking for clarity.
Well, I just don't think we've gotten into the whole landscaping plan, so I'm just asking what is.
Copy that.
Yeah, no, and that's a super good question. So part of the scope of the grant, because we made the building smaller, was to incorporate some outside space, right? And so with, healing gardens, whatever. So this is where we have to do some more consultation about exactly what that outside space is gonna look like and get our First Nations partner to the table on that outside space as well. But it's outside green space to be used by the community, right? So it's public space, it's green space, I'm sure there'll be some benches. We're not quite sure what it'll look like. that once we get the building all locked and loaded, which is what we're working on right now, that will be next on the list. So we're just putting in a placeholder for now. And as well, this is, I think, helping cover some of our landscaping over there too, just to make it look aesthetically nice for the community as it's on our main street. So you're right. We don't have clarity on exactly what that's going to look like, but it will be, we'll figure that out as a team
Council Reach and then Council.
coming year.
Through the chair, yeah, I'm just, the area that we're talking about outside, it opens from the community, big community area where there will be any kinds of events happening in that area. So it's really sort of an outside overflow and part of that community gathering. So the big space there that will be used for, it could be used for lots of things, conferencing, weddings, whatever. So, I mean, I think it fits. Or just big events, right? I think it fits. It's just semantics.
And it doesn't have to be a park to use this reserve. Sorry, it's a recreation. It's people recreate there. We can.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Councilor Bushel, Bianca, then Councilor Rich.
Yeah, through the chair, maybe, because we're new at this, we haven't developed property ourselves as a municipality, and maybe we need to check with Aaron in Salmon Arm, Aaron Jackson, Jackson, the CAO there. Like, what are they, when you build a community center and you want to use part of it as a park, do they allocate part of it as a park later on, or is it just
Green space.
Is it just become, commercial property? Like, I wonder how they assess it and all that. So once the lot is developed and half of it's a building and we want to start upgrading it into a park, or say we want to call it a park, do we designate it a park similar to what we did at the Legion? I don't know.
And that's really up to council, right? So if you want to make it a dedicated park,
Yeah.
you can do that, right? That's really.
Yeah, what I'm saying is maybe we just double check with maybe some of the other municipalities do. We don't know how, we've never done it.
Bianca?
And just like hearing this conversation, I also think January, February finance meeting, maybe I just do a summary of all the reserves and maybe we don't allocate it out of the rec reserve. If that would, we can look at that.
Okay, Councilor Rich.
Through the chair, yeah, and I'm all for the healing center, so I'm gonna put that out front. But and we all know it's commercial and it's not a park, but then we're taking park money to do landscaping. And I think just we need to really stay the course on this one, in my opinion. So it would be like saying, okay, for the maintenance of this building, there's a park bench out front, so we're gonna use recreation money because you could recreate and sit on the bench in front of the city hall. Is that, and I'm just saying that I'm concerned that may be the perception. I'm not going to say that is the perception, but I feel like that may be the pushback. So if there is, and it is a green space, and I absolutely believe people will recreate. I think people are gonna have picnics. I think people are gonna be in at the doctor and the kids are gonna play in the green space and all that good stuff. We will use that when we're having our Christmas parades, 100%. But I think we have to be very cognizant here. When we keep saying this is not a park, and then we take park money, even though we can use recreation money where we want, it would be like using recreation money to maintain the front of City Hall. Because I can recreate out there.
And we very well could.
Okay, but
There's nothing wrong with nothing that, just for the record.
Yeah,
It's not
I just
for
think-
dedicated.
I just think
at all.
perception is really important on this one. And so if there's somewhere, and we have to landscape it and it needs to be wonderful, and I want it so people can use it. So it's not that I don't want to spend the money.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's another fund that we can maybe look for the money at, and that it's a conversation.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to be negative.
Yeah.
I think perception's really big on this one.
Okay, thanks, Councilor Rich, Councilor Bailey, and then Councilor Beach.
Yeah, I'm obviously, I didn't vote for the healing center. I have lots of issues with that, but this is separate from that. And if it's fine, if I'm totally fine with this being used if we're gonna turn it into, whatever. I think it probably should be a park because we'd probably never develop it anyways, but we can have that discussion. But if that's the way we're going, great, let's come up with a plan for that and figure out how the community interacts with that and how that space is. So then, to me, that would be, if that's where council went, that would be the appropriate fund. Why I was asking this question is not to be difficult again and not to try to, bring up this healing center issue again, because that's already been dealt with. But now this is coming out of a Parks and Recreation budget. What does that look like? How does the community use that? That's fine. And if we have a plan for that, great. And so that's kind of my comments on that. And I know we don't, but when I saw landscaping at the healing center, I'm like, well, that doesn't really bring parks and recreation to me to use it for landscaping. I think it should be something that people can use and interact. And if that means that we're going to use picnic tables and benches and we're going to put something else there, then it becomes, in my mind, an appropriate use of the fund. So that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Thanks. And it's recreation, Parks and Recreation is a TV show.
Yes.
Thanks.
It was a very good.
Councilor Reach.
Through the chair.
Leslie Snope would be very proud of you right now. Go ahead.
Through the chair. Yeah, I think Siobhan's right. It is really a public perception. Could be the money is appropriate to use for this purpose because it will be a connecting point for people. So, but perception is absolutely 100% in pretty much all of our development. So I agree with Siobhan's sort of perspective on that.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes, Mayor Anderson.
It is our space, it's our property. I don't think we should back this up to call it park. And take the money out of there, put it in a landscape, but we're paying for it anyway. It doesn't matter if it comes out of Park and Rec, it's our building, it's our money. We're gonna pay for it out of some bucket. But maybe take it out of this bucket and give it a bucket of its own. That's all. Just perception, right? Perception. We've been fighting this, absolutely, for so long, perception.
And clarity is what we're looking for. Yes.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that at some point in this is a placeholder for now, and maybe we look at the funding source, agreed. But in some point during 2024, we will solidify what our plans are for that outdoor space. I mean, 250 is a random placeholder, right? We might only be spending 100,000, maybe it's we really don't know because we don't know the scope of what we're actually doing out there. So this is just a placeholder, and it most definitely will be coming back, and we will be figuring out what that actually outside space look like. Like Gord says, do we want to dedicate it formally as a park, or do we want to just leave it and add some stuff to it? So this is where I think there's an element from the public that we can get out there and try to figure out and come up with some different options that appease and put it out there. So yeah, outdoor space will be continued.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, and I agree that with Councilor Rich that I don't think we should call it a park, because we can call it a green space that is very functional, but I don't think we want to hamstring ourselves from future using it for something else that we might need in the future, or our future council might need, because it is not a park. But at any rate, those are my comments. Can we move on? Yeah, Kelly?
Oh,
Malcolm, and then Sarah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you through the chair. No, I agree with most of the comments about the optics. I think it's very important about the optics because it seems to be a sensitive project with the community. Well needed, of course, I support it 100%. And I agree with the comments regarding do not designate it as a park. Keep it as a green space. It has way more flexibility in use, and it doesn't hamstring us or future councils for future use. So yeah, we have to be careful with the optics, but I don't have a problem with place marking 250,000 for upgrading the recreational use of that green space. But I think it's important for optics that we do not even consider designating it as a park and keep it as a green space. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, let's move on. Oh, Mayor Anderson?
Comment, just one quick question. What, we cut the grass and maintain it right now. Where do we take that money from?
So operating budget out of parks, recreation,
Okay, just wondering. Okay, thanks.
that's where all of our lawn mowing goes. Whether it's a designated park or just a random piece of grass.
So further to that, when we mow the lawn at the beach park, does that come out of recreation? Operating?
Yep, and so do all of our flowers that you see around town that are everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes to just like maintenance of making our community look good,
Yeah.
essentially.
Councilor Rich?
Oh, so boulevards would be included in that. So grass mowing on boulevards would be parks and recreation.
Depending where, like,
Okay.
we do have a ditches line item for flailing, but yeah, most of the landscape stuff is
Okay,
fine for us.
so just to clarify, parks is one, recreation is another one. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, well, for the operating budget, yeah, it's separate. They're separate, parks and rec.
Yeah, recreation in our budget is truly just the programming piece,
Yeah,
right?
So the mowing around everywhere is usually all goes to parks, no matter if it's
Okay.
at an actual park or it's just a green space.
Or it's flowers somewhere or.
well, thanks for the clarity. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so it's two different things, really. Because recreation is the programming to do something like the parade that we had last Saturday. Parks is where we take the money out to mow the lawn, plant the planters.
Yeah, communities in bloom kind of stuff, yes.
Yeah, and just clarity. Thanks. Okay, yeah, Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, just one final comment. I agree with Councilor Rich that I think this has been a long-standing debate and we've had this huge debate about whether it's a park or not a park, and it's still going on. I'm totally fine with the 2025 placeholder. Like, I'm just saying, maybe depending on what we do, then it could be appropriate to have somewhere else. If it is truly a recreational space that council has decided this is what they want, then obviously that would make more sense in this budget. And that's the only point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Bailey. And Bianca said that we can not take it out of recreation.
Right.
We can term that a future date. Councilor Beach, one more quick comment. No, you're done? Good?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Let's move along.
Then we have washroom facilities, and this is just per our DCC projects. Tecumseh, I should have put Flocky's Beach and Old Town in 2026. Beach Park Pavilion, Daryl is looking into options there, so we put it into 2026, knowing we got lots going on the next couple of years. Yeah.
Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I thought, correct me if I thought we put that off just because of the issues with the archaeological that we had at the beach park.
It'll be a factor for sure.
Okay, but we're still,
We've
Oh,
earmarked
okay.
something because we don't know what.
right,
Right, so there's a little placeholder there in a couple of years to see what's out there. So there's things that are not very invasive to do and build,
Okay.
or, you know what I mean?
okay.
Different options to look at.
Maybe just a quick follow-up.
Yes.
Yeah, so that, I guess that was my next question, that because if we did have to do anything more invasive, we'd have to go through the archaeological.
We will anyway.
We will anyways, okay.
If we're just doing some basic forming and pouring, it would be like a minor amount of monitoring.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Good stuff.
Just,
Mayor Anderson?
I think I know the answer to this, but so anytime we touch anything, even though we've already touched it and sifted through it, we need to touch it and sift through it again. I'm just using that as, I don't,
Or at least notify.
conversation. Oh, for sure, I get consult.
And with our previous beach park stuff, it was just the area around where we built. We didn't do any archaeological on any of the other area. It was just a perimeter around where the beach park is, and even our pathway, we ground the pathway up, right? So we,
Pop the paving stones.
right, pop that, like, we made sure we did it on the same area. So if we, yeah, very careful. So if we do anything, like even the
You're thinking the augering?
The augering for when Saskew did theirs and Saskew covered that, that was about $5,000, $6,000. Just that, because we didn't do that piece as part of our beach park wash, and we only did a small area around the wash. So anything else there, if we want to dig in the ground or put some hard surface on it, will require archaeological work for sure.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Anderson.
So that was just Phil brought in to create the seating area behind the concession stand. Is that correct? Because that goes out pretty far into the.
Yeah, that was just Phil brought in, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Council Beach?
Through the chair, yeah, so for the beach part, if we're talking about doing anything in behind, now it's pretty much gonna be fill brought in and put on top because it's too low, it's too wet. To get any use out of that stuff. I'm just saying it's mostly fill that's gonna be brought in, so that means the archaeological wouldn't have to be done, right? If we were bringing in fill to build up that area to put cover posts in or anything.
Daryl will have to look at all the different options and see what will be
Yeah.
required depending on each option.
Because lots of times, even if you're not digging to put like a pavement surface over top of it, you still are blocking it. So like even with our, so it's not so cut and dry, Pam.
Oh,
I don't have it.
I thought if we were
Magic
going
answer.
down to disturb, that if we were covering it, that the archaeological didn't need to be done.
Complex.
It's not so straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 I don't really know right now.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Bailey and then Bianca.
Yeah, just my understanding is it's site disturbance when when it kind of triggers the archaeological thing,
Yeah.
even if we put fill on it or
You might be able to get away with.
You might,
filtering on the area,
okay.
right? Because they've got a map that highlights the sensitive areas, and then they're pretty careful about giving permission for those spots. They'd probably send somebody out to at least watch.
right.
But other areas you can get away with just big fill.
Okay, Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. I don't see anything in the budget, like when I'm out boating and you look at the shoreline of all the road accesses, the road allowances that go on to Mare Lake, like Pogue, and I forget the one in front of Mission Walkway there. Pogue, I think there's one close to the Legacy or down there. And they're just horrible to see because you see Mission Walker Resort right beside gorgeous sandy beach, and then our public road allowance is just a disgrace. There's nothing in the budget to clean the end of those road allowances up that go into the access to water. Why aren't we trying to keep those a little bit cleaner than, well, we just don't do anything with them, and I think they're a disgrace. No disrespect to city staff, but.
Are you asking Daryl Malcolm?
Where are we talking?
I think he's talking about the road allowances that go
Yeah.
into beaches.
Yeah.
We have several of them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's Pogue and the one right beside Mishawaka. All our public road allowances, there's one at not Capel, but the one next over from Capel. There's Pogue.
I understand what I'm saying.
There's one in what's the Archibald? Well, it's sort of a crescent, but all our road allowances that go on to touch on to Mare Lake, starting from just south of Capel, I guess. Archibald, Pogue, and I think there's one by Mare Landing there somewhere.
Okay, Daryl.
A couple of them. Can we not clean those up a bit?
Through the chair, little bit challenging. Would like to have those to be nice areas the community could use and have some access to the lake. Pogue and Archibald are the two that stand out in my mind as being, things we look at doing. The problem with Pogue is it's an outfall for our storm system. So We've actually put signage where we don't want people in there. There's a risk to it. There's a hazard. So we've got some signage telling people, you know, they're walking at their own risk and please stay out kind of thing. If they do go in, no dogs, I think was another one just today. Archibald is unique in that the road is really narrow, so there's not a lot of parking there. And what there is for parking, you've got the condo development and Mishimoqua, you know, parking there a lot when they have visitors and stuff. So to invite the public there is kind of challenging. There's I'm not gonna say it. I guess just geographically where it sits, it's kind of
Difficult to get.
kind of like it's owned by these guys in, you know, some people's mind, they've kind of gotten possessive of it. And that kind of goes on both sides of the property, and we've seen a little bit of chaos down there in terms of just making it too accessible, like trimming the trees and cleaning everything back, and you know, wasn't well received in the immediate area. So we do what we can. We do get in there every year, and we hand bomb all the logs because we can't get equipment over that barrier and close to the lake. So the guys are at those sites for a couple of days each, just hand bombing after the water comes up and leaves the debris behind. So we clean them. They're not beautiful beaches when we're done. I first admit it, but they are accessible, and the local people use them a little bit.
If I could through the chair, you know, when you go out to Swansea Point, I think they have 6 different public beaches out there just at the end of road allowances and stuff. And that's an example of, I thought, what we could have there. And it's not for vehicle access, it's for pedestrians and cyclists to access. And yeah, people next door, I mean, you can see the aerial photograph that's on the screen here, how nice the beach is north of Archibald, and how nice it is on right beside Pogue there with Mishimoqua or on Archibald. On both sides of Archibald, you've got nice beaches, and same thing as on Pogue, you know, a nice beach just immediately adjacent to the road allowance. I hear what you're saying, Daryl, but they don't own the beach. It's public road allowance, and I think it should be more usable and more accessible, even if it's just for pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah, so what I didn't realize until this came up, this is a new ortho, and I think they must have flown it in the spring. If you zoom into Archibald,
That's private property.
yeah, it kind of gives you a sense of what we deal with the debris and stuff that lands there. It's just it's about as bad a spot as you can find. Well, I know it's not as bad as well, but
Yeah, you're right at the head of the channel, and the water flows north and there, yeah. Gotcha.
yeah.
Councilor Rich?
Through the chair, just one of the things I didn't see on here, and I'm not sure because we're not doing it, or it just isn't, like, it's not is the tennis courts, and we talked about the parking. So I know the tennis courts are not a huge expense, and I don't know if we've committed to that or not. But I know we've discussed it, and we've also discussed about maybe having some more parking for the pickleball. So I'm not sure if that's part of recreation or not, or something we're dealing with this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've met with, well, we've gotten tennis and pickleball, just some ideas. We're looking at including it in our operating budget.
In the operating.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No increases there, but like we were able to work it this year in order to do the pickleball part. And now we're working to do some additional improvements for tennis and.
Okay,
And
it's money there, just different pot.
Thanks. Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with Malcolm on a lot of these issues about access to beaches. And I think it's a constant issue we have in a lot of areas where it gets perceived that this is not public space. It is. I think we need to preserve that as public space. People don't own the beaches. That's why we probably had those road right of ways in the first place, is to allow that access. And, you know, maybe this is probably a longer term project, but we should be thinking about how we make those spaces inviting, and I think that's what Malcolm is, like alluding to, is that people could go down there even with their bikes or walk from the houses in the local area to go and enjoy those beaches. So I think that's a good project for us to think about, and not just in those areas, but everywhere. Because that's a public asset.
Yeah.
Beaches, everyone loves a nice beach, so.
Yeah, you're right, Kelly, and then Councillor Bush.
Yeah, I just wanted maybe Nicole to briefly explain why there's these road accesses that butt against the water as it relates to subdivision.
Yep, through the chair. When a subdivision is adjacent to a body of water, access is required every 200 meters under the Land Title Act in an urban area, and we're urban because it's incorporated. So that's probably coming through subdivision. And that includes new subdivisions that we're reviewing today. Still require that.
And it has to be accessed via road.
Or it has to be road, can't be park. Yeah.
And so that's why you see these road accesses abutting, just a little nugget for people.
Thanks for that. Yeah, Councillor Bushel?
Yeah, through the chair, Colleen and Malcolm might remember, but we brought this up to Joe a long time ago when he, I think it was our first term to try to clean up those beaches, and it was always a fisheries issue, and I mean, it would be nice to have them cleaned up, and it's a lot of work. I mean, right now you have squatters there, using them with their pontoon boats and leaving their boats overnight there. So it'll have to be managed as well, because I know Archibald is, not so much Archibald, the next one, I think Cook, can't remember which ones there. But anyways, they're being used by squatter, boats that don't have a place to moor their boats in the summertime, so. Just, it's always nice to have access, but it is a lot of work, and I don't know if we can do it this year, but we could budget one every year, to clean them up.
Councillor Ian Bailey.
Yeah, just a question for Nicole. So when those road accesses get built, is that with the intent of trying to make sure people have access to the beaches, the foreshore? Is that kind of the idea behind it, or is it?
Yeah, through the chair, when we dedicate through subdivision, it's just access to water. How
Right.
you get there is up to you. They don't have to be constructed as part of subdivision. It could just be a little trail down there. You could have a skinny road and then a bigger bulb for some activities down there. There's lots of options, but in general.
But the intent is we want you to have access to the shore. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Good stuff. All right, why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let everybody stretch, give yourself a coffee. Is that cool? Yeah, Sarah? Oh, we need a motion for a break? All right, can I have a motion to take a 5-minute recess? Councillor Bailey? Councillor Bushnell, all in favor of taking a break? Awesome. Thanks for teaching me that, Sarah.
Those opposed?
That's good. Anybody opposed?
Thanks for teaching me.
All right, 5 minutes, let's do it. have an in-camera meeting after this, so
Okay.
let's go.
So, so next up is protective services. So I went through this budget with Brett. We have some remaining budget coming over for training props and building. His response trailer, so he has the new SPU trailer, the new 20-foot. This is to put in additional upgrades to it, so shelving, racks, everything required to get it functional for next summer season. And then engine 5, carrying over, so we put in the deposit last year. The truck is being made right now and we'll be getting it in the new year, so this is the remaining balance on the truck. One good thing to note is, it's a good thing to note, but at the same time, it's a bit sad. We did make quite a bit of money this year on our firefighters being deployed. So that's gonna be helping with some of these things to the tune of about 250,000 we'll be putting to reserves. So that's really good. And then just the 5-year plan for fire. So our current year items, and then we have 2025, putting that deposit down for our new tender 6 and to receive it in 2026. And then just every year we kind of get a bit of equipment, so I'm just putting a placeholder of 30. Brett's always looking for grants and everything like that, so just to have a placeholder there, we know that there's always a little bit of spending in fire protection. Yeah, well.
Okay, Councillor Bailey and not Councillor Bailey. Okay, that's why I'm bringing this coffee. Mayor Anderson and Councillor Rich.
Oh, I'm scratching.
Oh, you're scratching. Not.
Real quick, maybe it's on here and I'm missing it. How much money do we make on our SPU?
John, please.
I'd have to break it out from the two that were made.
So some of that is
Some of it is SPU.
fire guys and some of it is SPU.
Yeah, SPU and fire.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, we get a premium for the.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
We even get it even if it's just sitting at a fire and not even open. So just on waiting. So the SPU, it
Pays
pretty
for
much, it
itself.
pretty much pays for itself in the.
It's always
year.
paid for itself.
Yeah. Okay, and then just looking at the reserve chart. So going down, but usually we have a fire season and they'll bump it up to 50. I'm not overly concerned about the fire equipment reserve. Transportation. We'll go into the PW equipment. I have a separate one for that. We'll go over in a little bit. Paving, bringing forward our annual placeholder of 150. Talking to Daryl, focusing on the residential streets in 2024. Riverside Avenue project. So this is phase 2 for part of Riverside. Broom Road stability, we are carrying it forward as it ties to the bridge. South Squaw Bridge, which carryover from prior unspent. Pogue, should say Pogue, not Page.
Hang on, yeah, okay, it's okay. Councillor Rich.
Oh, through the chair, just with paving, Daryl, how much does 150 grand get us? How far does that get us? Is that a block or? I know, I'm not being a smart mouth. No, honestly, like, will it do One Tree Street?
Yeah,
And is that the grinding and then resurfacing?
it'll pull, yeah, so that we were getting. A couple of years ago now, it was just over, the last one we did was just over 100,000. And we went right from you go pathway to large, so that.
Okay, so we can do one.
Yeah, it's fun up, so 150 will still cover us, I think, for
Awesome,
that kind of length.
cool, thank you.
Councillor Bailey.
So since it's just been in the news, I want to touch on the South Squaw Bridge. I assume that 828,000 is our holdback from the contractor. Is that correct?
It's the carryover budget from previous years. So this is the placeholder for the remaining amount that we haven't spent in the.
And when you mean carryover budget, what does that mean? Like that?
So from the total South Squaw Bridge budget, we had it all funded out and stuff like that. This is unspent amount. Does that make sense?
Oh, well, then I guess my next question is,
Portion of this is in holdbacks.
right, that's what I'm,
Balance sheet, and it hasn't been, so this is kind of like the income statement, right? Even capitals on the income statement for for municipalities is a bit weird, right? So we do have money sitting in our balance sheet, which relates to this 828, right? Until we work out what the deficiencies are, and then we'll all magically.
And then the reason we're carrying it over is we might have to pay this amount depending on, you know, the
bond.
you know, the resolution that we're gonna try to find. Okay. Thanks.
Council Bushel.
Through the chair, Daryl, on road stability, is there anything on small machine, you know, I know we're probably waiting to find out what highways are doing and where the road's going and everything, but it's actually falling off into the channel at the very top there, right on the corner. Is there any worry about that spot there? It seems like you're just adding asphalt to it, but it keeps
Yeah,
sinking.
no, we're watching the barriers on the edge, on the lake side. Yeah, there's some concern with it. I mean, there's so much going on now with them coming through when they do the bridge, and then, you know,
Hopefully,
the road is supposed to be, you know, enhanced to the point where they can develop out further to the golf course kind of thing eventually. So, I mean, we're watching it. It's safe enough, but it's not ideal. It should be widened and it should be fixed properly.
yeah, just concerned if you guys were watching it or was it?
We've been patching it and, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Keep going. Yeah, thanks.
I'm just looking at 5-year capital plan.
Council Bushel.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, Page Stormworks. Is that Pogue?
Pogue, missed an L.
Oh.
That page.
We got a new street.
Okay, all right, no, that's okay, I just checking.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so then here, we have our 150 for paving going forward, the equipment, which we'll talk about. The next big one, Pine to Sherlock was next on the plan, and then we have a new year, 2028. So Green Road Roadworks, which would tie to water line upgrades.
Councilor Bailey.
So just have a general question as I see we're getting further out, 2027, 2028. Obviously the global spend of what we're doing has gone down. Is there a reason for that? We're trying to build up the reserves, or we just don't kind of know, or yeah.
Yeah, this is just going over like what operations sees as
What we know.
Yeah. For the next 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And consistently sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Your years next to like your current year and your next year are always higher than your future years because it's your best guess. Based on, you know, it'll change significantly. The 2026 will look different in 2025.
You just want to make sure you get the placeholders in now, and then as things start to manifest, you might have to move, right? Couple of points on this one, I'll just jump in really quick. So the PW equipment for 2024, the bulk of that, I would say, is the truck we ordered for last year that we're still waiting for. So is that, yeah. So again, that makes it look like we're going down quickly, but that's almost 2 years in one. So that top part. And then the other thing real quick, what's I gonna say? Oh, at one point we had talked about doing Riverside Ave, and we contemplated kind of as a group, should we just get Riverside done in one shot? Like, we'll take those 2 phases and make them one. We really wanted to, we looked at it, we can't. It's too much. It's too much to take on in 1 year. They start so late in the year for that construction, because we're close to the channel, water table's high. They have to start late. And as you guys could see, we just got it paved in time. And that was, you know, the Capel section, right? So Riverside would be 4, and I don't feel comfortable about trying to do it all at once. So that's why we split it.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, looking at that PW equipment. This is what Daryl was talking about. This replacement of 2014 Ford, that's actually from last year, carrying forward because we haven't spent it this year. Trucks take a while to order. I think we ordered this back in June, July, still waiting on it. And this next one that we had last year for 2024 as well. Carol will be bringing this to the next finance committee meeting because we need to get it ordered, so it's here. Our old truck is gonna be going over to the fire department because they need another truck for deployments and all moving people, so that'll be coming to the next regular council meeting. Daryl will be doing a report for that one. And then, yeah, just going through our regular replacements based on age and how they're doing right now. So our Ford 150, 2025, our Kubota, 2019 Kubota, 2015 our mower, over to 2026, our John Deere skid steer, 2027, our Chev 1-ton, replacing a 2009 Dakota, and 2028 placeholder. Looking into potentially getting a mini excavator in the future, just because we do a lot of digging and servicing, and it's a lot easier to have it on hand instead of having to rent it or get in a contractor for those digs. And also we do digs for at our cemetery.
Right.
So, yeah, any questions on that?
Yeah, okay, Councillor Bushel and Mayor Anderson.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Your Councillor Bushel.
Okay. It's a ways out on 2028. Daryl, I'm not sure how much we spend hiring excavators or renting excavators. I just think that's a big number for, is that equipment going to be sitting, or is it wise to use contractors, local contractors? Is it tough to get local
You're
contractors?
asking from now till then, is it?
No, I was just curious what we spend now on excavator, like a mini excavator. I know we rent them from Napa.
We do frequently.
And then,
Sorry, it's more a function of how often we need to go do a grade in the old section. So if we're in the new section, we can use our backhoe, but it's so crowded with headstones in the old section. If we get a few funerals in there, we're bringing the mini in just to be safe, and some of the smaller jobs. So every year is different, but I'd say a handful of times we're renting that thing. This year was quite a bit more than usual.
yeah, okay. Well, I just thought maybe, is it wiser to not rent it or not buy it and rent, if we're only needing it a handful of times, and it helps
I've
out.
seen a lot of connections as well that we really could have used it. I mean, we'll crunch the numbers before we pull the
Yeah,
trigger. I would show you what we've spent, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Anderson, then Councillor Rich.
Gonna get tired of hearing me say this, but, or ask this question, and I ask it every year because I can't remember the answer. What does it cost us to have a street sweeper every year?
We budget 30, I believe, in the operating budget. And I think we nailed it this year.
Dead.
Yeah,
This was like one of the first years we didn't go over.
Yeah, we did.
it's always pretty close, but
Yeah.
it was really tight, within a couple thousand.
Hey, and have you had any bites on the,
Honestly, I haven't checked. It's open
Okay.
until the end of the month.
and my second question is, we don't have a sidewalk sweeper, do we? And the reason I'm asking, Daryl, is because when you kind of drive around town, and this might be something that we want to look at, when you drive around town and you see some of the sidewalks or some of the multi-use trails, and they're covered in pine needles and things like that, or through, maybe we should look at a little sidewalk sweeper, just to keep sidewalks nice and neat, or even our multi-use trails along the highway, nice and neat. I don't, just a thought.
Yeah, we do have a Kubota broom, 48-inch broom, and
Okay.
we do use that.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Rich and then Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, if we were getting a mini excavator and that was a big focus on the cemetery, is that something that the CSRD can pitch in with too? Because I mean, it's Area E and we do bury people from all over the area. I don't know, I'm just going, we're all one family. So
I'm not sure they've ever.
It's one road.
it's, yeah, so I would You know, I'm just saying 15%. I don't know how many folks come from different areas, but I know there's a lot of Canby Southwell folks out in that cemetery, our area E2 that we're maintaining. So I don't know if that's something that they maybe would like to pony up on.
We have,
It's worth the question.
we have 5 years. We'll look at every option, price
Okay.
it all out, yeah.
And as it relates to the cemetery, we do get annually, I don't know if we did last year, but we have received a $750 grant from Area E to offset specifically for our cemetery, recognizing that they do use the cemetery. So they do give us a little bit of money.
$750 per person?
No. Our the operations of the cemetery isn't super huge budget line item for us. Yeah, but they have historically given us the money.
And on top of that too, looking at the cemetery, we will be looking at our fees for service for cemetery because we haven't updated them in an extremely long time and we are very low.
Yeah.
So that'll be one thing too that we can look at and factor in, you know, and we can see when we increase those where our revenues are out in the next year and maybe helps offset that mini excavator, right?
Okay. All right, let's keep going.
Didn't Gord have a question?
No, I've good, Daryl answered it about the sweeper.
Okay.
I'm just looking at our reserves. So roads,
Thanks.
dips down a bit with Riverside and everything going on, but we're building back up.
And this is our largest contribution.
Yeah.
230 is the largest part of our reserve.
And Public Works one as well. Dips down just because we have those big ones, but we do put 100,000 in there every year, which is pretty healthy budget. Just every few years, we have an expensive truck, so. Okay. Water and sewer. So this year, Boutwell Lift Station carrying forward from 2023, 650,000. Sewer, so, and then wastewater treatment plant upgrades. This is for a wastewater treatment plant long-term design plan. So they're figuring out what wastewater treatment plan needs to look like. Then pump replacements, 20,000. This is a continual replacement that we do every year. And lift station upgrades. So when we go to the 5-year plan here, we're gonna be doing, we have 4 lift stations. So our first one is on Moore. This one ties to Riverside. So getting that one done first as Riverside's gonna be happening. And it's a little bit more than the other ones. This is to give it its own generator. Right now it relies on the one from Main Street, which is not ideal. So that's why it's a little bit more here and then 150 going forward. I can just stay on this one then. My mouse is really, thank you.
I know.
It is not happy with me right now. Let's going back to the 1 year. Water capital, we have CPR booster station retrofit, 20,000. This is coming forward from last year and it kind of ties to that, to the bridge replacement. Just carry forward and Capella Riverside main upsizing. So this is phase 2. Looking at our 5-year, so we about, well, talked about. And then the only other big one for sewer, looking at our 5-year is radio upgrades and look in 2028. And water, like we've already talked about with roads, Pine to Sherlock upgrades. We have Silver Sands to Finlayson looping, and that again ties to the Broome Bridge. And Green Road upsizing, which we talked about in transportation. Yeah, so if any.
Comments, questions? Good. Oh, God, Kelly's got something.
Just really quick on the wastewater side of things, that 50,000 this year is a placeholder to determine what our future upgrades may be. So the 5-year capital plan, you know, next year we'll change, or the 10-year capital plan, whatever that is. But that's a really important thing. And I don't know if you wanted to just highlight anything else on that.
Bring that up
Yeah.
to the chair. As you know, we're working towards the permitting with MOE. So we're not gonna change gears. We're still doing that, and there's gonna be a lot to that permitting. Pulling in information, monitoring, submitting reports, and then it's gonna involve a lot of scrutiny and a lot of, directions for us to follow, so we'll keep pushing that way, and we're funded to keep working towards that permit. But it's not the long-term solution there. It's not. When they have technology nowadays that is, almost pure water at the end. I'm not saying we need that, but I'm saying we need to start looking at that just with all the environmental sensitivities. We've earmarked some money so we can look long-term and just get some kind of a design that we get it ready, get it shelf ready, so we can go chasing a grant if we need to. That's kind of a separate project on the side of the desk, but needs to be done. If we want this, working and then upgrade it, that would lose a bunch of time in the middle. So that's the plan.
Okay,
And on that note, so our reserves for water right now are in pretty good shape. For our reserves, however, sewer is taking a big dip, and so right now, what I'll be proposing at the next council meeting, talking about fees and service, is just setting rates for 2024 for sewer and water, not setting them for future years. Taking a good look at, what our assessments come out at, and then bring it back. So yeah, so we know this is getting low and we're gonna be adjusting.
Daryl, just through the chair, Bianca's completely right, but the DCC part of this is a big piece as well.
Critical.
I know that we're close, and so we're just tweaking that so we can get that back in front of us. Get that DCC component into place for this sanitary, it's really important.
yeah.
Yep.
Kelly?
And also on that note, just so everybody here's aware, about a couple years ago, we were feeling, this is how funny, a couple years ago, we were feeling really confident about our sewer and so we moved 750,000 from our sewer fund to our water fund at the time, right? So it's not like we can also, not that we're not going to use the water, but we do have the ability to do a transfer. It's not really healthy between general fund, but between the utilities, we've done it in the past. And now we're at a state where, oh no, our sewer reserve isn't that great. So there are flexibilities, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that a few years ago, we did do a one-time transfer. Yeah, things have changed since then.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that concludes our capital. The next one on the agenda, so community service grants have come out. So we have our list posted on who they have allocated to, so the requests, and then the recipients. And I don't know if Siobhan wants to talk about this year's round or anything.
Sure, through the chair. I'd just like to say thank you for the continued support through council for this. And we felt it's a really good committee and all the people that sit on the committee are really involved in the community. So, our big thing we're on, we've got our seniors, we've got our kids, and we've got our pets. So anyone that's kind of needs a little help up, that's what we looked at, and we were able to give money to absolutely everyone except for one. And they asked that I address that. And it's actually the Cat Therapy and Rescue Society is based out of the Lower Mainland. They're absolutely fabulous, and what they're trying to do is put a RV together that they come into communities to spay and neuter, which is fabulous. But it just we didn't feel like it was a good bang for our buck. So that was a reason that they do a really good job. It's just not what is needed within this community at this time. So yeah, we felt good about it, and I think you guys should too.
Good stuff. Comments, questions, Gordon?
Yeah, through the chair. On great work allocating all that. I think you guys did a great job. Just when we call it a community service grant. I know we've had in the past, I think not last year, maybe the year before, we had somebody from outside the community requesting grant funding, and we did allocate quite a bit of money. And just wondering, is there anything in our policy that restricts it to community, in the community, like that, you know, it's not an outside, I mean, I know there's one there from the Shuswap, which is important, but I'm just thinking, is there anything in our policy that, you know, they have to be from the community for a grant?
They need to do the work in the community. So LAS is outside the community, or Shuswap Paws Rescue does from Blind Bay all the way out to Malakwa.
Yeah.
So when we allocated money, we said, this money is for trap neuter release in Sycamoose. For LAS, which is a reading program, a really fabulous, and they do a lot of unplug and play. That money is going to the Sycamoose library, and it's going to mail out to books for Sycamoose children. So that money has to be spent in town, and then they actually they have a year to use the grant, and they actually have to report back and show us where that grant was used. And if we say, hey, it wasn't used where you're supposed to, they would have to repay it.
Yeah.
So the big thing is you don't have to be from Sycamoose, you have to spend the money at Sycamoose.
Okay,
So that's what we want to see.
and you guys watch that pretty closely?
Very closely. Roger and Robin are incredible. They go through, and you know, honestly, the team goes through it with a fine tooth comb too. So we're really careful that this money is being spent in the community and where it's supposed to be spent too.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, and then from that, I'll just let Robin know for the preschool society, we're just gonna hold, we're gonna look at what we're gonna do with that, but for all the others, she's good to proceed. And that's it for me.
Good job, Bianca. Thank you.
Good job.
All right. So, do I need to have a motion to end this part of the meeting? Recommendation that pursuant to sections 91 C and E of the community charter, the select finance community move in camera. Can I have a motion? Thank you, Mayor Anderson and Councillor Bushel. All in favor? Okay, we're gonna move in camera.
Okay, Malcolm, we'll see you in the other link.
Yeah, I sent him the link.
Oh, okay, thank you.